Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Giovia Financial Credit Union, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview the top business and community leaders in the industry. And today I'm very excited because we have with us one of my very good friends. Her name is Suzanne Chimera, and she is the co-founder of Hair We Share, an organization here on Long Island that provides support to folks that are going through cancer treatment. And, well, they want to look the way that they looked before they had cancer treatment. And Suzanne and her volunteers and her staff help her achieve that. So, Suzanne, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited. When I got to meet Suzanne, it was a little while ago. She had just moved into a new facility. The work that they do is just incredible. So, Suzanne, please tell us about the beginning of your journey, how you started the organization. To me, that was such an inspiring story of just someone who saw a need and really jumped in there, and you put yourself out there. You really made a difference.
Thank you. It was an interesting start. I've been a wig designer since 1994, and I always hated to charge people for my service where what I do is custom-made high-end wigs. They would retail from $3,000 to $5,000. And when it comes to a child who is sick or lost their hair for a medical condition, it's a hard number to put on a family to have to pay for them to just have a wig. You know, medical expenses are high, and just raising a child is expensive without the medical expenses.
Absolutely.
So what happened was this mom called, and she was telling me about her daughter who had alopecia. The daughter had lost her hair when she was 12 years old, and she had alopecia universalis, not a hair on her body. She had been bullied in school, and as a result of that, her parents were homeschooling her because getting up in the morning and getting ready for school was just a nightmare for them. The kid was spending most of her days in her bedroom with the lights turned off. The parents hid all sharp objects in the house from her because they were afraid she was going to hurt herself. And so I couldn't let it go that they couldn't afford the service that I provided. We turned to social media. I took a photo of the child and I put her on Facebook, and I asked people to send their hair. In 3 days, 42 people sent their hair. In the meantime, my regular clients that I serve, who are from all different businesses all over Long Island, were peeling off $100 bills at me saying, here, get the kid a wig, get the kid a wig.
Wow.
And so within a week, I had the funding and the hair to make her a custom-made wig. And that's how Hair We Share was born.
And from there, you've grown so much.
Hugely.
It's truly incredible. I had the opportunity to visit your site and get to see folks in action. So tell us a little bit about how you've now grown.
So the first 5 years was very rough.
Right.
It took a long time for us to get the point across of why we need funding and not just hair. People just didn't understand. They thought, take my hair and make a wig, but their hairs are sewn one at a time. So it's manufacturing involved, and we pay a factory to do that. So what happened was we were getting a lot more hair than we were getting funding. We were getting, in 2018, for the year, we had 2,000 hair donations. But then in 2019, for the year, we had 40,000 hair donations.
Wow.
And so
that's exponential growth.
It was out of control. We actually, it was very out of control. We lost control of it. We had a small office. It was two of us operating the office. The mailman was coming daily with an extended van full of mail, full of hair, to the point where we took over our local post office. The post office was actually sending employees to our office to sort the mail. In other words, they were just bringing all the mail to us and then coming to our office and sifting it through it to find mail that belonged to other local businesses and residences. So we took on, that was our first group of volunteers we took on was senior citizens from a networking group called TTN. We had 30 women, and it took them 6 months just to open every package and to look to see if there was a check inside, because maybe 1 out of every 100 had a check inside, but people were calling us and saying, hey, I sent you a check, you didn't cash it, where is it? Yeah.
You had to worry about those being stale, did it too, if it waited too long.
Right. And so then what happened was we developed our ponytail tracking program, which we already kind of had, but it wasn't like an official program. So we made it so that if a hair donor also donates $150 with the hair, we'll use that for the manufacturing expense, and we send them a photo of the wig.
That is a very innovative approach to a problem that you had, and also it's a genius idea when it comes to marketing.
Thank you. Well, it was in order to get something, you have to give something is the kind of concept behind it. And we expanded on that during COVID, because during COVID, we lost our fundraising events. And at that time, we only had about maybe 10% of hair donors joining our ponytail tracking program. So what we did was we added a T-shirt, and we raised the price by $25. So it was $125, and we raised it to $150, but with a T-shirt. And the T-shirt says, I made the cut, and has the Hair We Share logo on it. Our monetary donations raised to about 60% of the hair donors then also sending the monetary donation with that because of the T-shirt. So what that did was it made walking billboards. So now all over the country, and that is our only advertising expense.
And it's a wonderful situation that you created out of something. During the pandemic, it was so difficult, for nonprofits in particular. And you'd think, well, people are home and they're not spending as much money, but, it was tough also because people weren't working, so there were other challenges, and you kind of turned that around. One of the other things I thought was very interesting, and when you and I spoke originally, is that you had mentioned a big challenge during COVID was that you were getting so much more hair than you had previously.
Hair.
Now, how did you deal with the storage of that? Because one of the things I was wondering at the time was, well, can hair go bad? Or there's all these things. So how did you handle all that?
As long as the hair is dry and clean and in a Ziploc bag, it's fine. We've actually had hair that's 100 years old. It's happened several times where people have contacted us and said, hey, cleaning out my grandmother's house, and I found her hair in a bag. Can you use it? And we tell them as long as it's clean and dry, we could use it. We've had it happen twice, where a woman cut her hair her entire life. So there was one woman, Anne, I always remember her name, and she had passed away. Her husband called us and said, I have this box of hair that belonged to my wife. Can you use it? And it was so interesting. It was every bag had her name and the length of hair and the year. And it started in like 1925. It was like,
oh, wow.
And it was like, Anne, 5 years old, 12 inches, and 8 years old, 12 inches. And it was, and more than that, with that, in that box, she had her grandmother's hair.
Oh, wow.
So
multi-generational.
Yeah. And I found interesting, it was before the ponytail holder existed. There was no elastic bands. The hair was tied in strings.
Oh, wow.
and
so
ribbons.
they had to either do it up in a bun or just...
There was no such thing
no
as elastic
oh.
ponytail holders at the time. They didn't exist.
Huh.
And then in the later years, the hair had the elastic around it. So in the earlier years, it was the grandmother's was actually like in twine, in a little rope, and then Anne's was like in a ribbon, like a piece of yarn, and then it was a couple of years, a couple of donations in a ribbon, and then as it got to I want to say the 80s, the rubber bands started showing up in the hair.
Then you had the fluorescent thing.
Yeah. And we used all of her hair.
Wow. That is incredible. And before talking with you, I had no idea that was even possible. Now, was that a thing, I guess, back in the old days that people saved their hair for years and years?
I guess we had another set of twins that they made a home video where they showed them get into their car, into the backseat of the car. They were little kids, and they had long blonde hair, and they hung their hair out the car door. And then you saw the car pull up again, and they got out of the car and they shook their heads, and and their hair was all cut off. And they saved the hair all of those years. It was like 50 years.
Wow.
And they sent it to us, and it was beautiful. It was in beautiful condition. And I think actually maybe hair that old is in better condition because they didn't have as many products as they have now.
Yeah.
And additives in foods and things like that. That all adds to the health of your hair.
Huh. Wow.
Vitamins and minerals and foods. And so there wasn't as many chemicals used and as many food products as we have now.
So vintage hair is good.
Vintage hair is good.
I see I learned something today.
But it's fascinating. The stories of the hair donors sometimes is actually, just really interesting stories with hair donors and why they've done it. The reason for cutting their hair.
And that has to inspire, I would think,
very
more
inspiring.
folks to do that. You are listening to Tarot Talk Business Radio on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with my guest today, Suzanne Chimera, and she is the co-founder of Hair We Share right here on Long Island. Now, one of the things that also interested me as I learned more about Hair We Share is that this is something that it's not just, I automatically assume women, because you're thinking of what a woman goes through when she's going through cancer treatment or other diseases where she loses her hair and how impactful that is. And you mentioned middle school age. I can only imagine middle school going through that. But this is also an issue for young men as well. And there's a story that you had mentioned, and I'd love you to share that today so our listener can hear it. The story about the young man.
Joe, yeah.
Joe.
So I was invited to speak at a high school entrepreneur club. Mm-hmm. And the classroom was mostly boys. And I had a PowerPoint presentation, and I felt that these boys weren't interested in what I had to say as I was doing it.
Okay.
But when I finished, the questions started coming at me really quickly, and they were very much interested. It came to this boy, Joe, and he said, "There were no pictures of boys in your PowerPoint. Do you help boys?" And I felt stumped for a second, but I said, well, of course I would help a boy if a boy came to us, but we've never had since we have had boys since then. This was when we first started. Mm-hmm. But at that time we had not given a wig to a boy. And he says, oh, okay. And it goes around the room, a couple more questions, comes back to Joe. And he says, so you operate on donations? And I said, yes. And one of the teachers says, Joe, did you want to grow your hair? It's beautiful. And he says, no, I don't want to grow my hair. I want to give her money. He says, do you take money? I said, of course. That's how we operate. We need to have manufacturing expenses. Goes around the room again a couple times, comes back to Joe. And he says, I had cancer. I had brain cancer. And when I lost my hair, it was the worst part. I didn't want to go out in public. I didn't want people to see that I was sick. And, for a 13-year-old boy, in middle school.
Oof.
It's as bad as a girl, but it seems that girls get the sympathy for that and boys don't. And there's that, tough it up kid,
Right.
boys don't cry, is so wrong on so many levels. I said, well, would you have wanted a wig? And he said, my dad offered to get me a wig, and I said no, because girls wear wigs. So he said, I said, okay, would you spend some time with me and talk about it? And I want to learn your experience and see how I can help boys in your situation. And so at the end of the class, Joe ran out of the room, and he came back in with a $5 bill, and he handed me a $5 bill. I wanted to cry.
Wow.
I also didn't want to take the kids. I felt like it was his lunch money, but then at the same time, he wanted to give it. So we had a conversation about he would have liked a hat that had hair attached to it, a baseball hat, so that if he was going out to eat or a store or whatever, he can throw the hat on and walk around and not have people looking at him and feeling bad for him. And he said that he did only go out wearing a hat, but even with the hat, you can tell that he was bald. So I developed that hat, and we started another chapter of Hair We Share called Hats from Joe. We kind of put it on the back burner right during COVID, and with all of the massive increase of hair donations during COVID, it's kind of still on the back burner. But I did make several thousand of those hats, and I am giving them to kids along with the wigs, and I am sending them to cancer centers.
That is incredible. And I applaud you for going that extra mile to ask uncomfortable questions, because it's, you don't want to pry too much, but at the same time, it's something within you that's saying, you know what, we need to get down to the bottom of this, and what can we do?
Right. If there's one boy out there feeling that way, then there's thousands of boys out there feeling that way.
Yes.
And their feelings are disregarded, and they shouldn't be.
You have some very inspiring stories about partnerships that you've developed working with other organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. So we work with about 4 different organizations for developmentally disabled, all different levels of abilities. Our groups do everything from sorting the hair to styling, photographing, database entry, and now we have some new groups that are doing that are communicating with donors. They're doing donor correspondence.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I think those collaborations, that's what really helps nonprofits. And I think sometimes nonprofits, they've been in the past concerned about doing collaborations because it's, you don't want to share some things like, oh, well, what if you find out about my donors? And to me, all that really is nonsense.
It is, and I guess it is, and it kind of isn't. In the beginning, I had a very hard time with collaboration and the thought of it, because a lot of people were coming to say, oh, I know this organization, you should, get in touch with them, you can work with them. And I thought, well, but donors...
Sure, yeah.
It's hard to give up donors if but then I think as I got more comfortable and as I grew more, I realized that there are many pools of donors, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose donors by collaborating. It's just going to help you grow. So yeah, we've collaborated with a lot of organizations. Right now, actually, I'm collaborating with an anti-bullying organization out in the state of Washington.
Wow.
The guy who started the organization cut his hair and sent it, and he had said to me, I would like my hair to go to somebody who was getting bullied. And we don't hold hair for specific people. It's if we have it and it matches somebody, it goes to them. We can't say, okay, this hair is for anti-bullying and this hair is for alopecia and this one is for cancer, because it would just be too crazy.
Yeah.
But he sent his hair, and I agreed to make some videos with the hair going through the process, and I had it sitting on my desk. And I opened my email, and I got a email from a mom asking me about her kid getting a wig and that she was having a very hard time being bullied in school.
Oh.
As it turns out, she's in the state of Washington.
Oh, wow. Talk about serendipity.
Yeah,
right?
so I'm making a custom-made wig for this kid out of this guy's hair. And we're going to we're going to collaborate on a video on it. Yeah.
That's incredible. You are doing God's work. It's really an incredible thing. Now, you've also partnered with influencers. You've partnered with for-profit agencies. So I wanted you to share your story about your partnership with, I think she was a YouTuber or...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So Molly Burke.
Yes.
Yes, she's a blind YouTuber. And when we made the wig from her hair, we thought, well, how is the ponytail tracking program going to work if she can't see it?
Right.
So we actually found a kid. She's in LA, and we found a kid in LA with alopecia, and we sent her to meet Molly Burke and have her personally deliver the wig to her. And what's interesting was the kid had been a follower of her, and I had never heard of her before. But the mom had the kid call me to say thank you. And the kid got on the phone squealing, "Am I really getting Molly Burke's hair? Are you really giving me Molly Burke's hair?" And she did a beautiful job delivering her the wig. She had a pizza party. She got her presents. She found out that she likes pigs. She got her a stuffed pig. She took her to the hair salon. They got her hair done. They made a video and took photos. And so it's nice. It was a warm, beautiful experience for the kid, and it was a nice, advertisement for us.
You are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Suzanne Chimera, and she is the co-founder of Hair We Share right here on Long Island. I'm Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nash Community College, 90.3 WHPC. So Suzanne, what for-profit agencies would you like to partner with, or which ones would you like to?
Would I
with?
like to? Not
yes.
do I already? What I would like to is beauty industry. I mean, there is so much beauty industry out there, and I feel that we haven't even begun to touch it, to tap into it. We've had a few startup companies that have donated to us, but the problem we face a lot is that they want to donate products, not money.
Okay.
And so we've said, look, okay, we'll promote your product, but there's got to be a monetary donation attached to it. We will not promote the products to our recipients. We had like a very expensive shampoo brand, and they said, well, we're going to give you, 1,000 bottles of shampoo and conditioner, and you can send them to your recipients. And I thought, well, with a coupon, and I thought, well, it's an expensive product for one.
Mm-hmm.
And for two, now we're paying the shipping of the product and storage of it and taking the time to pack it. So we were able to come up with an arrangement where we agreed to put the product out at our gala to
nice.
our gala recipients and put it in the swag bag for a sponsorship.
Yeah, that is and again, I applaud you for some innovative thinking there, because that's you're having folks who are coming to you because they're having difficulty affording the wigs to promote an expensive product may be counterintuitive, but certainly the folks who are going to the galas, they're going to love the product,
right?
And it is related. So a wonderful way to collaborate. Now you've also collaborated with. Well, I'm not sure if I would call it a collaboration or more of an event. Wanted you to talk a little bit about your event in the stadium.
Yeah.
That is quite a video.
Yeah. I actually cried the entire day. We went to, we were invited by, it was a casino resort in Temecula, California, Pachanga. And they're a Native American casino resort. And they are partnered with the Rams and the Chargers. Mm-hmm. And so they did a collaboration with us at SoFi Stadium. They had us there for 2 football games. And we were up on, I don't even know if you call it the Jumbotron anymore, because it's not just a big screen. It's like the whole stadium is a screen now.
Yeah, it's like multimedia. I've seen that in the UBS. It's everything lights up.
Everything is a screen. It's wild. So they flew me out to LA, and they took me to the stadium early in the morning, and they had their own media there. And this was the Rams on a Sunday football game. They did a haircutting event in like a private suite, and they made a video of it, and they played that during the halftime show. And then the next day, they turned the stadium over to the Chargers, and they actually built an entire massive hair salon in the stadium, and they did haircuts, and they had that up on the screens, and it was a whirlwind weekend. It was amazing.
I can only imagine. Now, we're coming to a close. As we're coming to a close, I want to make sure that folks know, how can they get involved with Hair We Share? What events do you have coming up, or what, obviously there's the donations of the hair, there's donations of money, but how can folks get involved, and how can they find you? It's
hairweshare.org. If you can't understand that with my accent, HAIRWESHARE. People always get it wrong.
Well, because we're from Long Island.
Right.
Long Island.
And we do have our September Gala, which is our 11-year anniversary. That's September 26th at the Crest Hollow. And we are currently putting together a collaboration with hair salons called United Salons of America. And what they are doing is each salon is choosing a day or a few days within the week of July 22nd, and they are donating a percentage of their services for those days to Hair We Share. So you can look for a salon in your area and get a haircut.
I love it. And that's a wonderful ways to get involved. Suzanne, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for the work that you do. As I said, you do God's work here. It's really incredible. Many more years to come for Hair We Share on Long Island.
Thank you for having me.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Denisha Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We're available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC.